So, it's a new year, and we all have that same big question, right? What's next? We start looking for goals, for some kind of map. But what if the best guide for our future is actually thousands of years old? Let's dive into an ancient blueprint that might just be what we need for finding our way.
So let's get right to it. How do we find our way forward when the path ahead isn't clear at all?
I want you to picture this. You're standing at the edge of a vast, unmarked wilderness. It's beautiful. You know, it's full of potential, but it's also kind of intimidating. Without a compass or a guide, it would be so easy to get lost.
So where do you turn? Your gut instinct? The latest self-help trend? Maybe a new productivity app on your phone? That's the exact question we're going to explore today, but through the lens of a really powerful ancient story.
Okay, for this, we're going to go way back to the book of Exodus. We find a group of people facing their own kind of new year, except they're in a literal desert with two very, very different paths in front of them.
Believe it or not, on the first day of the second year after they escaped from Egypt, the Israelites were at this critical turning point. They needed direction, a way to move forward. Sound familiar?
Now here's where the story gets really interesting. If you look at the timeline, God gives them a blueprint for a tabernacle, the sacred space. But right in the middle of everything, between getting the plans and actually building it, they take this disastrous detour, the whole golden calf incident.
And this slide just lays out the choice so perfectly. On one hand, you've got the golden calf. This was their attempt to create their own guide, born out of impatience and fear. And the result? Total chaos. On the other hand, you have the tabernacle blueprint, a detailed, deliberate plan to first establish order and a sense of divine presence.
So after that whole golden calf mess, they finally get back on track. And just look at this process. It wasn't random. This was a meticulous, step-by-step assembly, starting from the most sacred object and working their way outwards. This was all about a disciplined act of creating order before they ever expected to get direction. And get this is the kicker. As they're building, the text repeats the phrase, "as the Lord commanded," 7 times. Now, in this ancient context, the number 7, well, that meant completion, perfection. They weren't winging it. They were following the divine blueprint with absolute focus.
Okay, so they do all this deliberate work. They follow the plan to a T. What's the payoff? What happens when the blueprint is finally followed perfectly? The very second the last piece was in place, the moment that sacred space was fully and correctly established, something incredible happened. A clear, unmistakable sign of guidance appeared.
The source material boils it all down to this one unforgettable principle, and you see it here in the original language. First the tabernacle, then the cloud. The order is everything. It's non-negotiable. You have to establish the presence before you can receive the guidance.
So let's be crystal clear on what we're talking about here. The tabernacle, or the tent of meeting, that represents creating an ordered, consecrated space in your life for divine presence. And the cloud? That's the guidance. That's the clear direction that follows. See, you don't get the cloud without first building the tabernacle.
Okay, awesome story, right? But what does an ancient tent in the desert have to do with your new year right now? Well, let's actually break down this blueprint into 4 practical steps we can use today.
So here it is, a 4-part framework, straight out of this story. 1. Be the temple. 2. Be holy. 3. Follow the commands. And finally, number 4, follow the cloud.
All right, first up, be the temple. What that means is the new year doesn't start with a frantic search for some sign out there. Nope, it starts inside. The idea is that you are the sacred space. It's about putting your own inner house in order, clearing out the junk, defining what you value before you start chasing after external goals.
Second, be holy. And look, that might sound like a heavy word, but all it really means is to consecrate or set apart your life for a higher purpose. It's about taking your everyday actions, your time, your energy, and dedicating them to something that truly matters to you. It turns the boring routine into a meaningful ritual.
Number 3, follow the commands. The Israelites, they had a specific blueprint. For us, this just means lining our lives up with timeless wisdom and truth. You know, things like integrity, compassion, justice, instead of just chasing whatever feels good in the moment or what's trending online. You can't follow the instructions if you don't even know what they are.
And finally, after you've done all that internal work, then you learn to follow the cloud. And this part is so key. It's about discernment and patience. The Israelites didn't move an inch until that cloud moved.
See, guidance isn't just about knowing where to go, it's also about knowing when to go and having the discipline to wait for that right moment.
So we've got our 4 positive steps, right? But if we look back at the story, their success came just as much from what they left out. So, what's the one thing that's conspicuously absent from this successful plan?
Exactly. The thing that's missing is the golden calf. The second time around, they didn't fall for that temptation to just create their own easy man-made guide. They resisted that urge for a quick fix, and they stuck to the real blueprint.
And that really brings us right to the heart of it all. A modern golden calf can be anything we substitute for true guidance, an ideology, a person, even a belief system. The challenge from this ancient story is to first build our internal temple, and from there we can find the courage to follow true guidance, leaving all those glittering, self-made idols behind.